Hey, what's up guys, welcome back to this game's tutorial. Today we actually implement the research and they will also implement their own very update function. So as you can tell, this one actually updates its text on its own and we're currently 60% completed. If we actually go back to say the main menu or somewhere here and we just hang out in the hub or anywhere really in our application, if we decide to go back, you will notice that this has been going on even though we weren't there. So it is based on the total playtime, and depending on if the app is active or not, you're actually completing your research. Now I'm planning for the research to be something that are actually going to take quite long, so maybe like the biggest research would be 5 hours, something like that. So it's always good to have these things running in the background, and that's what we're going to be doing today, guys. So without further ado, let's get started. Alright, so last episode we laid down the ground for the whole research mechanic. Now today we are going to actually start putting some, we're going to start by creating a research container and just put it on top of these objects you see here. So it's going to work like pretty much all the other things we have here. So the stats, they have a stat container, the currency, they have a currency container, or I mean loot. And it's pretty much going to be the exact same thing. So we are going to start off by going inside of our game scene. Let's find our bottom UI currency panel. We're going to turn this off. We are now working on the research panel. Now if we expand it, I'm just going to delete everything but only keep one. And here's the actual plan here. So I am not going to change the icon. I am not going to change the description. This is supposed to be the research description. Buttons, that is something I will change, so we'll change the text inside of it. Now the duration, which is just below that, same thing, we'll be changing that. What else? Research progress, so we'll be changing what is inside of here. And what is this one? This one looks like it duplicates, so I'm actually just going to take it off and resave my research container. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and just click or choose this research container, add a new component. This is the research container. Okay, so the goal of this one is pretty much going to be to monitor this very research and also update it on its own. So every single, say, seconds, check if we're currently in progress, if the update is in progress, I mean the research is in progress, and if it is, go ahead and just update the bar, update the text in it, and all that kind of good information. So let's start by declaring a public research, which is going to be the actual perk you're trying to unlock. We are going to do a private void start as well. We actually need some more information, so that's the only one that is public. So we're only going to be setting the research in the inspector. After that, we'll need a research info structure that we'll call info. This is to get just the basic information on the actual research, so how much gold does it cost, and how long is it. And like every single other container we have, we're gonna have a text array. Now, in order to have this text array, we're gonna be using Unity Engine.ui. So have a text array that we're gonna call text, and also a private float last refresh, which is going to be used to just determine if we need to update right now or not. Private bool is research active, which is pretty much just going to make sure that whenever it's not active, we don't run an update for no reason. Okay. So we got all of these fields. Let's actually assign them right now. So research is going to be assigned through the UI, through the inspector. Now the research info, this one we can get with what we've done in the last episode. So we can say info is equal to research manager, and this one has a function, so get research info. Having that done, we now have the information about this very research. We can do a get component in children, so get component in children button. We're getting the actual button. We're gonna hook up a function to it. So on-click, add listener, and let's actually call this start research. Now we need an actual function like this, so private void start research. And this is going to be our start button. Now it has a function assigned to it called start research. Next, we can go ahead and assign the text components. So texts are equal to get components in children over here, type of text. And just when we're done with everything, let's actually update the content of our UI piece. But for that, we'll need an additional function, so private void update container. I feel like making this public actually, in case we need to call it from the game UI. So public void update container, and this is where we actually take care of actually, changing the text depending on the state of that very research. Okay. So let's actually go back to the game for a second and set this to tradesman. Here it is there by default actually. Now we're gonna need to create some kind of logic that actually determines which state is the actual research in. So to do this, let's start and get the start time of that very research. So float start time. We can get this by asking it to our tower. Our tower holds an array of all the start time of the research, so we just say the tower instance research at the index of our current research. This way we're gonna have the start time in a float, and now we can use the total playtime in our logic to actually create this. So if start time is equal to 0.0f, that means we never really started the research, so we never really, started research. So that means it is not started, research has not been started yet, and that's the only case it could happen. I mean, if the research hasn't been started, that means start time is equal to 0. There's no other way to actually go in this code. Now let's do else if the tower.instance.total playtime minus the start time is smaller than info.research time. If that's the case, that means the research is actually going on right now. That means we have not finished it, but at least we started it. So it's currently in progress. And else, let's do the final else statement. If it has not been started and it is not completed, it's pretty much just finished. So is finished. So we now have our 3if statement. Now all we're going to be needing to do is just put some values in there. Beforehand, let's actually check out our text array. So we do a text is equal to get component in children's, and then we should get an actual text array out of that. But let's actually look at our object inside of the game and actually determine what values are going where. So let's actually start with the first children. This one does not have a text component, so we're fine. Now research description, it's the first text we encounter, so that's on index number 0. We do not want to change this one, but let's actually write it down as well, so we don't forget. This is the text. On the index 0, we've got the description text. Now if we keep going a little bit down, we get this button over here. This button has nothing on it, but if we expand it to children, it actually has a text component here and another text component there. So this would be the cost and this would be the duration. Let's write them down. Cost, duration, and there's also a third one that is right here. So it's not on research progress, it's actually the text beneath research progress, and that is the ratio or the percentage completed. So percent completed. Alright, so we got these three texts. Now we can actually use the text array to assign those, but it always depends on which else statement or if statement we're in. So say we haven't started the research yet. We could say text at the index 1, let's modify the cost, Oh, sorry about that, my numpad was not open. Dot text is equal to start, or something like that. We're going to be putting the cost soon enough, but let's just write start for now. Then we're going to do text at the index 2, that is the duration. So is equal to info.researchTime toString text3 dot text. That's the percentage completed. If we haven't started, well, we are obviously on 0. Okay. If we move down a little bit below here and we go in the in progress section, well, the first thing we actually need to do if we're on progress is actually start by locking that button. We must not be able to click that button again. So let's do a get component in children button interactable is equal to false. This way, whenever we press on the button for the first time and this is now in progress, we don't get to actually press on it again. Next one would be a ratio. So we need a ratio to actually modify the size of the bar when we have a bar, and we also need a ratio to know what's the actual percentage right now. So float ratio is equal to the tower.instance.total playtime minus the start time, and we're going to keep going with that same float just below it. So ratio is equal to ratio divided by info.researchTime. We could have been putting everything on a single line, but I just feel like this is more readable. So this way we actually have a ratio that is in between 0 and 1. Now if we go down here, the text is going to be something like in progress, and that's the text on top of the button. Now as far as the duration, let's leave it the same for now. And just below this, that is the actual percentage completed. So all we get, since we have this in 0 and 1 value, we don't have this in like clean percentage, we have this in between the value 0 and 1. We are going to say ratio times 100. Then we'll do a toString, make sure to remove all the decimals by saying this parameter, and let's also add the little percentage characters, so this thing. And that is going to do the whole thing, the whole job, if we have to actually update our container while it is in progress. But there is also something else we should do if it's in progress. We should also make sure that the isResearchActive is equal to true. By default, isResearchActive should be equal to false because we did not give it a value, so it's just going to take the value false. Now if it only enters this place at least once, then isResearchActive is going to turn to true, and over here we can actually shut it off. So whenever we're really finished, we can say isResearchActive is equal to false. But even better than that, if it is the first time that it actually enters this else statement, we're going to do something more. So if it is the first time, that means isResearchActive is going to be equal to true. Now if we wrap this up in an if statement like this, we can also use that opportunity right here. Since this is the first time it's actually being called, we can use that to actually call our research manager, that instance, and make sure he updates his own research bit array. So this way we can access the unlock research from some other places. But I skipped this part. I went a little bit too fast. We didn't do the text yet for if it is completed. So we're going to take all of these, paste them here. We're also going to take the button, so let's make sure that the button is not active. So like this. And let's change this text for completed. And we could be changing this for 100% if we wish. Alright, so let's actually give this a look. Hopefully everything works fine. We've coded this whole thing. Well, actually, there's no real way to test right now. We need to put something in the start research function before we even test this out. So, well, what do we need to do exactly in the start research? We need to put a value inside of the tower instance research array. So let's do that actually. The tower.instance.research at the index in research with a small r is equal to the tower.instance total playtime. Now once we start this, let's actually update the container at least once. So what's going to happen if we are currently in the well, actually let's check this out. Okay, so if we're starting the game and the research has not been started, then we are going to go here. The research is not going to be active, nothing is going to happen really, it's just going to do that once and that's fine. Now if we decide to start the research while the game is active, it is going to call the update container, and now that total playtime, now that this value over here is no longer 0, we will enter this else if statement, which means that the is research active is going to be true at least once. And this way, if it is true at least once, it's going to go in the else statement at one point. Or actually it's not, because we're missing an update. Okay, sorry, there's like a flaw in my logic here. We're missing an update. So let's collapse these. Private void update. Good thing I reread myself, else I'd be missing all those easy stuff. So if is research active and time.time minus last refresh is bigger than 1, last refresh being a value that we assign whenever we do the refresh. So where is it at? Nowhere actually. Okay, well, last refresh at the very end of our update container function. Last refresh is equal to time.time. And okay, so if time.time, okay, cool. So every second while this is active, we are going to do update container. And because we don't like numbers like this just laying around in our code, we are going to turn this into a const. So private const float refresh rate is equal to 1. Okay, now this makes more sense. And the whole code should be running really smoothly actually. Now over to my preloader, I'm going to boot this game. And let's actually check in the regedit at the same time. It's hard to read this because it is going to be a float value, so I don't think we're going to be able to read this anytime soon. But this should be on 0 right now. The tradesman should be on 0. And you know what? Let's actually put it in debug somewhere. Or not, actually. Let's just test it out in the game. So I'm going to go here, launch the game, go under research. This says completed, so there's obviously something wrong. Now, I think that has to do with my last save, because I didn't wipe it just yet. So if I just reopen the regedit, clean... Actually, you know what? If I just hit the reset save button before I do anything, reset save, it should now actually not be completed. So this is a fresh save game, and everything is like normal. Okay. So now we could be playing. Oh, there's also an error we're about to fix really soon, but this is not related to our actual research, so let's keep going. If I press on start, is research active is now going to be true, and we are going to be in progress. This number goes up depending on the ratio of the actual research. So we know that this research is a total of 5 minutes long. As long as we keep our game open somewhere, doesn't matter where, this number is actually gonna go up. So right now, as you can tell, we are on 7%. I'm going to close this off, start the game again. I'm on my actual save, and then I can wait, say, another 10 seconds or something, and we're not going to be on 7% anymore. We're going to be on, say, 10 or 12, 11. It was really close. So as you can tell, as long as the game is open, our total playtime goes up, and our research gets slowly filled in. Now I'm going to cheat a little bit, go over to my tower, reduce the research time for 50 seconds, and we are going to test out the completion. So, well, that was a little bit too fast. Let's do 65. At this point, the research should not be completed, but about to be. So 88%, this is now in progress. And we're gonna hit 100 really soon. Completed, 100. And our array should also be updated. Our bit array inside of the research manager should also be updated. Okay, well, before we end this video, let's actually fix this error because it is quite annoying. This is due because we have calls that uses this text array. That is for the loot manager, by the way. So, I mean the loot containers. The loot containers are these things over here under the currency panel, and as you can tell, the code is actually trying to call some code that has not been started yet. As you can tell, these objects, they're not being active. Now, if I go back in my game and actually click on the currency tab, it's actually loading them, and then I can switch back to research. We're never going to get the same error we did anymore because we loaded them at least once at the beginning. And that is pretty much why it's crashing. It's a really annoying crash. The simple way to fix it is by going up here. So we are currently in the loot container. Right here on top of the update text, not on top, but I mean at the very top, we are going to say if text is equal to null, that means we haven't run the start yet, so it's not even worth updating the text because we haven't run the start, and we're updating stuff that we haven't even seen yet, so it doesn't really matter. And whenever we do toggle that tab, that currency tab, the update text is going to be rerun anyway. So by doing this, we don't get the same problem that we had. And this should actually fix pretty much all our problems, and we actually have a research working well. Let me just put that timer back on 300. Alright guys, so in the next episode we're gonna do the cost, so we're gonna assign a cost to that very button. We're also going to create our bar that moves depending on the percentage, and probably fix our duration as well. Put some nice formatted text here so we can read it in actual hours and minute. And yeah, so I hope you guys enjoy. I hope you learned something, and if you like this video, please leave me a like. Really appreciate that. If you have any question or comment, you can leave them in the comment section below or on the Facebook page. So please subscribe for more tutorials like these, and I will see you guys in the next episode.